Segway is by far one of the biggest flops of the 21st century. From billionaire investors predicting it would change the world to them now being extinct, Segway has proven this ridiculous device wasn't the future of transportation. However, the story of Segway is still interesting. From being praised by Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos to how it eventually became the meme it is today, the rise and fall of Segway is nothing short of fascinating. But how did it fall so badly? To answer that question, we first need to take a look at why Segway was created in the first place, which brings us to 1995. That year, a man named Dean Kamen had big dreams for the future. He was a brilliant, ambitious inventor known for his revolutionary creations in the medical world, including the first insulin pump and the iBot wheelchair, a wheelchair that could climb stairs and even balance on two wheels. These creations were undoubtedly game changers in the medical industry. But Dean wanted more. With his expertise in transportation and a plan to revolutionize how people got around, Dean turned his attention to his next creation, one that he thought would change the world. Of course, that creation would end up being the Segway, and over the next 5 years, Dean and his team of engineers secretly developed it without anyone knowing. Well, everyone except the rich and famous. During those years, tech titans and billionaire investors took notice of Dean's new invention and were fascinated with it. For example, John Doerr, an early Google and Amazon investor, thought the Segway was the most important invention since the internet. Another was Steve Jobs, who thought the Segway was as significant as the personal computer. And then there's Jeff Bezos, who believed the Segway was revolutionary and a complete rethink of urban transportation. It seemed like everything was going perfectly for Dean, but just under a year before the Segway's release, he ran into a massive problem. In January 2001, a newsletter called Inside.com posted a story about a leak regarding a millionaire investor named Dean Kamen allegedly working on a world-changing invention. This story exploded the interest in this mysterious invention and led to hundreds of thousands of people relentlessly trying to uncover this creation. During the craze, leaked patent designs were posted online, and discussions were happening by the minute about what this revolutionary invention could be. And soon, the rumors circulated on mainstream news, including NPR, the New York Times, and multiple late-night talk shows. By December, expectations were oppressively high, and Dean thought it was finally the right time to reveal the Segway to the world before someone beat him to it. And so, on December 3rd, 2001, on Good Morning America, Dean finally revealed his mysterious world-changing invention, and the world was, well, shocked. Now, to give credit where it's due, the Segway was a remarkable innovation at the time. It balanced flawlessly on two wheels, the steering was intuitive, and users could speed up to 12.5 miles per hour while covering 12 miles on one charge. These innovations were awe-inspiring by 2001 standards. But from the get-go, the public saw many flaws with the Segway. For starters, the cost to buy one was ridiculous. They weren't even available to purchase until a year after the reveal, and when you could buy it, it cost $4,950. The pricing of the Segway was so bad that Segway's own employees thought it was ridiculous. Take Clee Kleber, a former vice president of Segway, who said $5 or $6 grand for one of these things was crazy. Segway's former CEO, Jim Norrod, agreed, saying, "A lot of people said our products were too expensive, they were too high priced." Yeah, they were. And despite price reductions and discounts, Segway failed to captivate a broader audience thanks to its steep cost. It also failed to get them interested for another reason. The Segway didn't live up to the hype. With how concealed and mysterious it was, the Segway was perceived to be the epitome of innovation. But once unveiled, it was merely seen as an expensive scooter. This anticlimax significantly affected its perception and gave it no chance of catching on. Harvard business professor William Salmon agrees, saying, "There were no possible chances to live up to the hype. That's as much hype as you can get about something. Period." And so everyone wanted a magic carpet. Because it was clear the Segway wasn't going to replace cars or anything of the sort, the expectation of it revolutionizing transportation fell short. But even if it did catch on, how would all of those Segways fit on the road? This was another major concern of the Segway and even got Dean into some serious legal issues. Because the Segway was so ahead of its time, there was no clear place to ride it. It was too slow to flow with traffic, too bulky for sidewalks, and in the early 2000s, protected protected bike lanes were rare. The confusion about where to ride it led the Segway to face many legal restrictions and bans in many cities and countries. And despite Dean's extensive efforts to lobby with governments, the restrictions stayed in place. And for good reason too. Thanks to how new the technology was, first-time Segway riders often injured themselves because they had no clue how to ride them. The Segway was implicated in multiple incidents, including fatal ones, and was perceived as a risk to pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists sharing its vicinity. And after George Bush was infamously caught falling off of one in 2003, the public's view of the Segway being a danger to society was solidified. However, that wasn't the only point of view the public had about Dean's creation. Arguably, the number one reason why Segway failed to catch on was how stupid you looked riding it. It was bulky, ugly, and downright awkward when you rode one, and this narrative caught on quickly in the mainstream. Popular TV shows like Frasier and Arrested Development made fun of how uncool it was, and it was Paul Blart's portrayal in Paul Blart Mall Cop that solidified the Segway's goofy image more than any other cultural reference. It became a punchline, and while Segway tried to redesign its device to make it more sleek, it was clear to Dean that it had no hope of being popular. Because of these reasons and more, the Segway failed to revolutionize the world of transportation. They were only selling a pitiful 10 units a week, and by the time 2009 came around, Dean knew it was time to give up on his creation. He sold Segway to a British millionaire named Jimmy Heselden, and after he ironically died while riding a Segway, the company was eventually bought by Ninebot, a Chinese competitor. And it was them that decided to officially discontinue the original Segway on July 15, 2020, thanks to low sales, high costs, and changing consumer preferences. While the Segway was a massive flop, this wasn't the only time a company messed up big time. To see how Coke almost destroyed their business, check out this video of mine, where I dive into the disastrous story of New Coke.